So far, the NFL playoffs have started. Houdini and I were talking about how the most anticipated game for us that we were most excited for was last night, the Chiefs and Dolphins. And wow, what a game. One, really, really cold, but two, good job, Chiefs. The Dolphins can't play in the cold, clearly, or should I say Tua?
I don't know. Like this one's hard for me. I don't know if it was so much what the Dolphins didn't do as opposed to like what the Chiefs did. I thought the Chiefs played a perfect playoff football game. So I do still think that the Dolphins can win in the playoffs moving forward, and it was kind of an unfair advantage for them with how many defenders they lost in the last like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it would have been interesting to see a game not in -4, like maybe a typical normal temperature, 32 degrees, somewhere around there, maybe even a little bit warmer. I think they definitely were handicapped by that. I feel like that was expected too. I feel like what everybody wasn't sure of though was the Chiefs looking like the Chiefs again, and I feel like they did. They looked like former Super Bowl champions and the most recent dynasty that we've seen. If that's the Chiefs that we're going to get, I think the league is happy that they don't have to go into Arrowhead again.
Yeah.
The one thing that I kept asking myself the entire game, which I thought was just very odd, maybe you guys can explain it to me. Your football knowledge is way better than mine. But Tua seemed to one. There was this huge report that he doesn't play well in the cold, just due to his prior experiences playing in the cold. But it seemed like they weren't really throwing the ball at all. They were trying to run a lot. That wasn't working. And it was like, why not change the game plan a little? And then when Tua tried to throw the ball, it was always like a guy that was like right next to him. And there were like three guys on the Chiefs just standing there waiting for him. It was like, what are you doing? Is that just like my naive perspective of it, or is that just the truth?
No, I didn't like the offensive play calling last night. I don't think they stretched the field enough. I thought it was a lot of checkdowns and screens, which I don't think was going to get it done. And I think they kind of overanalyzed the weather a little too much. The Chiefs went out and played football. Yeah. I think the Dolphins were trying to play passive a little bit just because of the weather conditions. And I bet they were a little like they can say whatever they want. Naturally, I think you're a little intimidated by that weather playing in Arrowhead.
Yeah, you can say it didn't play a factor, but it definitely plays a factor when it's that cold. You're already known as a team that doesn't do well in the cold. It absolutely plays a factor. You made a great point, Houdini. The Chiefs just went out and played football. Like they really did. They really didn't change their game plan at all. Maybe Tua can't throw it as far as he normally does. Can't hit those timing routes like he normally does, which is what that offense is built on. Even if you look at the touchdown pass to Tyreek, that ball is severely underthrown. Tyreek has to come back and make a play on it. And that really wasn't that far of a pass. So I think there's definitely something to him not playing well in the cold. And I think the team is handicapped in general when it comes to that.
However, though, to my point, though, when he did throw the ball somewhat far to Tyreek on that touchdown, you throw the ball a little bit and look what happens. Good things happen all of a sudden. It was like I feel like they weren't aggressive at all from at least my point of view there. But a big question that's been floating around in the Dolphins fan base is it time to move on from Tua? They're like, you got one more year left and then that's it, because the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in a very, very long time. And it just seems like maybe Tua might not be the person is what their fan base is saying. Do you agree with them?
I do not. It's rare to get a quarterback that understands football, right? Who can read defenses, who can make difficult throws. I'm not saying he's a good passer on a deep ball, but I think from like that like obviously the check down, I'd probably say like 25 to 30 yards is probably like his max of throwing a really, really accurate ball. But I like there's just no I'm looking at like the landscape of quarterbacks in the NFL and I would take Tua on my franchise any day of the week compared to what's out there. So I don't think it's time. And to be honest with you, a lot of people are trying to write off Depot. What's the head coach's name again?
McDaniel.
That's what I thought. A lot of people are trying to write off McDaniel too. And I don't get that either. I mean, the defense was obliterated the last 5 weeks. The guy has the respect of the locker room. He's the most relaxed coach in the NFL, I feel like. So I there's no reason to hit the panic button on the Dolphins. They reached the playoffs this year. Last year they kind of choked it. I think they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, this is going to be a make or break year for Tua. Obviously a contract year, but I think it is for McDaniel as well too. I think, with the amount that they've invested into that team and the the capital that they have used to get a lot of those players, the pressure's there and they got to win. But you bring up a great point, though. If they don't go with Tua, I don't know what the free agent class is, but who's going to be better than him coming in a first year on a very complicated offense?
On top of that, Tua answered every question about whether or not he could stay healthy. So that was like the number one thing. Was he durable enough?
And on his head, too, concussions, yeah.
Yeah. Was he durable enough to last the season? He did, and he had a great year. All of the pieces around him were getting hurt. He wasn't. So I don't know, man. I think
they suffered an unreal amount of injuries on defense, like season ending. Like they were playing essentially third stringers at multiple positions at the end of the year.
Yeah, Tyreek did say at the end of the game that he said that he believes in this team next year to go out and win a Super Bowl. So we'll see what type of moves that they make this offseason, to get where they need to get to. But I just have to bring this up because this was all over Twitter too, X, whatever you want to call it. There's a video right after the game ended of Pat Mahomes and Tua approaches Pat Mahomes. Obviously, they say, their little correct congrats, but right away, Tua seemed to have wanted to ask for Pat Mahomes' jersey after the game. Does that mean anything to you? A lot of people were a little annoyed about this because 10 minutes after you get eliminated, you're sitting there asking for someone's jersey rather than just saying, good game. I got to go to the locker room and think about what just happened because I just worked a whole year and it's all gone. But no, I want a jersey instead.
I mean, that shit doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me either. I think people are just looking for it. I understand if you're a fan because you're just fuming. You're mad. You want to just throw anything there is at anything.
Especially if you're a Tua hater too, or if you're not sold on Tua. Like,
well, it's a lot of Finns fans that were saying that.
I feel like that's just today's day and age, man. Yeah, they didn't do that shit back in the 80s and 90s, but sometime in the last 10, 15 years, I feel like that kind of became the norm to do that.
However, though, I don't know if I would want Pat Mahomes' jersey that he beat me in. That's the one thing that I think was weird about it is like, why would I want that?
Well, I mean, okay, so let me back up. The shit doesn't bother me, but like, I'm not a massive fan of it in the sense of if I played, I wouldn't ask someone for their jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's not important, but I understand to some guys that the jersey swap is kind of cool. I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I get bounced right here. I'm going to ask for this guy's uni. Like, I'm gonna take I'm gonna take some dude's jersey home that smells like shit.
One of the last things that I'd be thinking about is, oh, dude, I'm trying to get my biggest counterpart's jersey right now.
Yeah, no fucking shot.